Hey there, everybody. This is Alex's CELPIP.pro. Today, we wanted to take some time just to review the writing exercise that one of our subscribers submitted today to us. And I wanted just to take a little bit of time, try to explain how you can get your response better. Um, I'm a CELPIP instructor, but I'm not a CELPIP rater, which means that I cannot actually tell, what kind of a score you would get on a real CELPIP test with that response. And what you need to understand is that actually there's going to be 4 to 6 people who will rate your CELPIP writing test. So one person cannot give you the points, okay? But at least I can try to advise and tell you what you can do better. When we are looking at writing tasks, there are 4 big categories that will impact your score. The first one is called content and coherence. It's basically stands for the number and quality of ideas. Ultimately, we are looking for 2, but better 3 ideas on CELPIP writing. We also need to have some examples and support in detail. So whenever you present an idea, you don't want just to have one sentence about it. You probably want to explain it a little bit more. And the last one, organization of ideas. So basically want the ideas to be logically organized, really easy to read, and they should be supported really well. The second big part of your score is going to be vocabulary, where the rituals will assess your word choices. You better use suitable words and phrases, which means that sometimes you just don't have like the best words, or you're not using the best words in your CELPIP writing, and maybe you're just using, something that is a synonym, but not quite exact what a native speaker would use. Number 3, a range of words and phrases. That usually stands for, you being able to choose different synonyms and not repeating yourself again and again in your writing. And number 4, precision and accuracy. Again, this is some sort of relates to how well you can pick the different shades of meanings of the words, how well they fit the context, are they accurate, like do they actually fulfill the task in there, or maybe you can use better words. Number 3, the biggest one of the biggest categories here is readability. And I personally really love readability because you don't need to know a lot of English there. As long as you understand how to format and paragraph your CELPIP writing, you can get really good points on readability scale. The big thing here is what lots of Ukrainian speakers are missing is actually using connectors and transitions. So these are the little kind of words that will connect your speech together and will help it flow smoothly and nicely. Um, a lot of times what I see is that people just start their sentences always with I, we, I, kind of with the subject without linking their sentences between one another. The next subcategory here is grammar and sentence structure. And I did say you don't need a lot of English here, and I'm still staying with my thought. For the grammar sentence structure, basically, they want to see that you are able to use, different types of sentences, like that you are comfortable using short sentences, long sentences, complex, maybe compounded. You can potentially use if sentences, or you can use different tenses, like you can talk in past, you can talk in future tense, etc., etc. So it's all about that. Spelling and punctuation is going to be the last closing subcategory here, which basically stands for the clarity of your words. Are you able to properly spell them, and are you able to put your punctuation, your commas, dots, semicolons where you need them? The next one, number 4, is task fulfillment. Another really big category that doesn't quite depend on English. It answers the question how well you answered the task. Like, did you stay on topic? Did you talk about relevant things? Completeness stands for you basically answering all the questions that you've been given. Like if you have 3 questions, you need to answer 3 questions. If you've been given 4 questions, you need to answer all of them. Tone is just an easy thing to do. Basically, in CELPIP writing, they are looking for you to sound professional, to sound according to the situation. You don't want to be over casual. You don't want to be also over um, over. You don't want to sound like a little too much too. Like you don't want to be over official, I would say, right? You just want to be in the right place and in the right tone for the conversation. And last but not least is the word count. That basically stands for you being able to, um, write for an amount of 150 to 200 words. Actually, lots of people don't know, but you can do 10% less or 10% more without getting any penalty. So if you write 135 words, there's no penalty, that's fine. If you write 220 words, no penalty, everything is fine. Great. But should you write 220, there you go. This is where you're going to see the penalty. That's where the problem is. So, oh, sorry, I meant 221. 220, still fine. 221, that's where the problem is. Anyway, let's get down to the task that I have received today. So we are dealing with writing task 1 and a response sent by one of our anonymous learners. The task asks you to read the following information: that you recently returned from your honeymoon in Mexico. The staff at the resort really exceeded your expectations, providing you and your spouse with a number of complimentary services that you didn't anticipate. So as we can see, the prompt kind of gives you quite a bit of a background, what's going on, and it also uses a bit of a advanced vocabulary, like the words complementary and didn't anticipate, which means that you didn't expect some of the free services. Let's take a look now at the task, what you actually need to do. You need to describe the services received and how they exceeded your expectations. That's number 1. Number 2, explain how the services affected your experience. Number 3, express your gratitude for the services received. So these 3 questions should form your 3 body paragraphs, 3 main ideas, 3 things that you will need to answer to. That being said, you still need to have a bit of an introduction and a bit of a closing at the end of your story. And also you need a signature, the quick write-up. So that looks kind of good. Let's quickly take a look at the answer. So our learner says, I recently heard that your wife and you want to go on vacation to Mexico and looking for a good hotel. I'm confident that I know the hotel you have to choose. Okay. So when I read this, it looks like this person is trying to give an advice, um, which is not what we need to do. We need to write an email to the company. So basically, kind of saying thank you for a really good service. But okay, let's keep going. My wife and I visited White Sand Resort last month, and it was really exciting and unforgettable. That's a really good word choice there. Unforgettable. I really love it. I don't know why this person uses lowercase I, because I should always be capitalized. Seems like a common mistake here all across the story. Everywhere I is not capitalized, so that's definitely something that will impact your spelling and punctuation down there. Okay, let's keep going. Firstly, I want to tell you about amazing staff over there. They exceeded all our expectations. Okay, that's good. So the person has a looking word firstly to structure the ideas. I really love when people start using them. They exceeded all our expectations. So this is something that I can see right here in the story itself, because the prompt says the staff at the resort really exceeded your expectations. So this person is basically saying the same thing, but also uses the same words. It's not even paraphrasing. So this is something that test raters will be looking at, is how well you can paraphrase, how well you can use your own words, right? So you don't want to repeat the same thing that is already written there. But keep going. They provided numerous of complementary services. Um, that doesn't sound quite good. So you can just say numerous complementary services, which will translate to типу декілька безкоштовних послуг, or you can go with just a number of complementary services, which will also sound pretty good. Our room was always clean. Our towels were always fresh, and little fridge was always full of drinks and ice cream. Well, I can see that we're missing like a little article here uh, about the amazing staff here. So this is something that will just help to look your story better. But I like it. So the person kind of goes into the details and explains what kind of services they were getting, right? What are the things that he and his wife enjoyed? They have professional kitchen, so this is spelling mistake, kitchen staff, and food was delicious. The waitress, so the waitress is one person, and we should go with the word was instead of the word were, right? Past to be in singular form is the word was extremely polite. I like how the person used the word extremely instead of using just something too casual like the word very. So yeah, absolutely great word choice here. I would just make one paragraph here instead of making it two paragraphs. If we just go back quickly here, our task was for the first bullet point to describe the services received and how they exceeded your expectations. Um, I would say we have a good description of the services, but we don't have quite an explanation of how they exceeded expectations, right? We don't understand what the expectation was, or why always fresh towels are something that will exceed the expectations. So I will give like maybe 3/4 out of completeness for the first bullet point. So I'd say it's not bad, but it's not quite complete though too. Let's keep going. And the second paragraph looks to be pretty short paragraph. So let's try to take a look what the author wanted to tell us here. To compare with our previous vacation on Cuba, yeah, again, I would just go with in Cuba for sure. It is like the heaven to earth. It's like, okay, that's really difficult to understand. But to compare our previous vacation in Cuba, it is like heaven to earth. It's like probably a person is trying to compare that Mexico was a heaven and Cuba was the earth. Services were not so good. How they costed. Stuff was not so polite and food was not tasty. Okay, so he tries to now I get it. Like he tries to explain how Mexican this resort exceeded expectations, right? Because maybe after Cuba, it looks really good. That's probably what the person is trying to say. But this whole thing, like it's not really well worded. It's really difficult to understand what the person means by saying it is like heaven to earth, probably just trying to say like there's been a huge difference. Services were not so good. How they cost it, that I also struggle to understand. Like I don't know, maybe the price in Cuba was too high, or maybe the price in Mexico was too high. I don't know. Stuff was not so polite and food was not tasty. Um, that's fine. I'll just put a comma in there just to separate the two sets of subject verb object so it'll look nicer. Um, Yeah, that's explain how services affected your experience. So that's fine, but I would still say that this whole thing relates to the first bullet point, right? You're trying to explain maybe how you expected it to be, like you maybe you didn't expect everything to be so nice and so clean and Mexico to be so like welcoming. Maybe you're thinking like it'll be like Cuba. So I would say this is still the first idea. It still develops the first idea. Let's go to the next paragraph. Sorry, we were really appreciative to hotels managers. So I'd say you visited one hotel, so that should be hotel apostrophe S managers and all employees that work there for their incredible service, professionalism, patient, and attention. Okay, so when you have the word patient, I want to think this is somebody who got sick and who is in the hospital. When you want to thank somebody, you want to thank them for their patience, the terpeimist, and attention to all our needs. Okay, this is fine. We definitely will come there on vacation in the future, uh, for a vacation, or maybe yeah, for a vacation in future. So that's a cute little paragraph in there that expresses the gratitude. So yeah, I'm gonna give that to the author. This has been answered. Like this is pretty good. We got the answer to the first bullet point, and we got the answer to a third bullet point. However, I still don't think we have quite an answer for the second bullet point. Explain how the services affected your experience. So what you could write down here, you could potentially say something like, um, the professional kitchen staff and foods was delicious. Um, so we, um, we were eating at the restaurants uh, every single day. So not only you stating what kind of services you received, but you also going a little bit ahead and you're explaining how this affected your stay, right? That'll be a great like kind of explanation and a great way of putting your sentences organized when you show the reason and you show the effect, right? Or you show the services and you show the effect of these services, how they impacted you. So that'll be pretty good. The waitress was extremely polite. Um, Again, this is a nice idea, but I want it to be more developed. Because if we go back to performance standards, right, we have here a very big part is examples and support and details, and also the quality of ideas, because examples and support and details will dramatically impact your quality of ideas, right? So you want to just make sure that you're explaining, like if you're given those little ideas about the waiters, you're explaining them and you're supporting them. So here, for example, the waiter was extremely polite. Um, we can try to explain this a little bit. What effect has it had on us? Maybe we can say that she was polite and um, attentive, right? And then we're gonna explain this a little bit more. We can use the linking words for instance instead of using for example, just slightly better vocabulary choice. For instance, she always knew um, what drinks to offer and when to serve uh, our, oh, sorry, our dishes. Okay. So just a little explanation about the waitress, right? You are given that little example and you go in above just explaining so what. Like she was extremely polite, so what? She always knew what drinks to offer and when to serve our dishes, right? Um, uh, we can also try to make it more personal, and we can add a name. So for example, you can say the waitress, um, I don't know, let her be Lisa, was extremely polite and attentive. So this way, not only you're give an example about the waitress, but you're making that whole thing look so much more personal. Like this is a real person that you remember her name and you want to say thank to her, and you definitely remember her, right? So definitely great choice to go to the real name usage. And I see that here the author actually used the name for the resort, which is also a great thing to do. Absolutely go for it. Make up the names, like create more context for the story. That's great. Okay. So I would say if we just go back to content and coherence, that the number of ideas author had two good ideas, and he replied actually to two out of three questions, which is fine, but could have been better. In quality of ideas, quality is okay, but it can be improved by using more examples and supporting details, by making the whole thing more personal. Organization of ideas, I would say that our ideas are organized pretty well. We have paragraphs, it's pretty easy to read. Um, it's come in a logical order, so I really like it. I hope I was able to describe you, my impressions about that huddle. Eh, my I don't know, it's just not a great word choice. My impressions about that huddle. I would probably I hope I was able to describe you my impression. Um, so I would just say impression from the vacation. Okay, and that should be enough. That just will sound so much better. Let me know what you decided. Okay, this is a little bit confusing because again, the author wants someone to decide something where we were never told like to give advice or to suggest something. We were asked to write an email to the company and you should answer these questions or you should do some specific things, but you were never asked to wait for some sort of a reply or response. So this is a bit off topic. It tells me that author didn't quite understand the task. They're not completely on a task. And here, back at the top, um, I'm confident to know the huddle that you have to choose. Um, and this whole introduction, it just tells me that author didn't quite understand the task. So just be more careful there when you read. Try to understand who are you writing this email to, and you will do a better job next time, okay? But yeah, overall, you still were able to kind of explain probably the whole thing. One little detail at the bottom, that's a great thing. You have the best regards. This is a very typical Canadian write-off, right? Just a little thing that tells that like a sign of being polite that people use. In Ukrainian, we would say something close to um, з найкращими побажаннями, чи там щиро ваш, best regards. It's just a great word choice. You don't need to put a dot at the end. It's not needed at all. And yeah, so let's just quickly go back to performance standards to quickly take a look at the other dimensions. So for content coherence, again, just make sure that you're answering all the questions and you're providing more detail there. For the vocabulary, I would say there were some really good word choices. If we just go back here, you'll be able to see how this person uses this great word like unforgettable. Really good word choice. Again, he doesn't say, great stuff or good stuff. He uses like Slightly more advanced vocabulary by going and saying amazing. Our room was always clean. Our towels were always fresh. Little fridge was always full of drinks and ice cream. They have professional kitchen staff. Mm, okay. Any other really good word choices? Extremely polite. Like I really like that word choice, and it was created by the author. Um, serve dishes. Um, a little bit unclarity here. So these are just some things I didn't quite understood. Um, I'll just mark them or maybe underline them. Services were not so good. How they costed. Again, how they cost. Maybe the person wants just to say services were not so good for the price that we paid. Типу, послуги були не настільки гарні за ту ціну, яку ми заплатили, for the price that we paid, but how they costed, it's just really unusual to see something like that. I'll just underline this because it's not clear. Staff was not so polite. So again, I would choose that was not so polite, maybe to the word the staff was rude, instead of repeating the word polite that we used before. So again, a little bit of room for better word choices. Sometimes you can just go with the opposite instead of using the word not. Underline. The food was not tasty. Again, you can just uh, say it differently, right? Don't use the word not. You can say the food was gross or the food was terrible, and that'll be a better word choice rather than saying tasty, not tasty, delicious, not delicious. Go with the opposites. Like show that you have better vocabulary. We're not really appreciative to hotels managers. Oh, sorry, we're really appreciative to hotels managers. I would say we really appreciate hotels managers and employees that work there for their incredible service. We really appreciate it. But okay, let it be like that. Professionals, patience, like really good word choice, patience here. Although we had to kind of adjust it a little bit. Attention to all our needs. That's also one of the good examples. Not just attention, but attention to your needs. That's another great example. We will definitely come there for vacation in the future. So the person is using the future tense. Um, Most of the story is structured either in past tense or in present tense. So pretty good different grammar structure used here. So I really love that. And yeah, let's just switch back to performance standards just to make sure that I'm staying on topic myself here. So for the range of words and phrases, I will say there's definitely a certain extent of the range, which is exemplified by using of different nice words and expressions. But there's also room for using more the opposites, right? For providing better adjectives rather than using the not so tasty or not polite. You can use the better words and phrases. So precision accuracy could be improved. Going to readability, I would say the format and paragraphing was pretty good. We had separate paragraphs. They were logically organized. I love that. The format was also according to the email. So we had the introduction, we had every single idea started in the different paragraph, and we had the little closing together with the signature and the write-off. So that's beautiful. Connectors and transitions. The author was trying to use a little bit of connectors, like here's the word firstly, which is a good connector. So let me just something kind of Korean, but so you still can read it. Firstly is a good connector, but aside from that, I can say like to compare with as a sort of a connector. It's just the whole sentence doesn't sound too good, but I'm going to give that to the author. So this is something that I wrote, for instance, right? Try to use them. This is a great example how you can introduce some additional information with using a connector, so you can get more points on CELPIP test. Aside from that, I don't see a lot of different connectors, and I'll say more. If you use the word firstly, you want also to have secondly. You also want to have lastly, or another thing, or last but not least, like all those kind of words. Also, we want to have a comma after the word firstly. So yeah, I'd say we could use more connectors here for sure. Grammar and sentence structure, I would say that the grammar was kind of all right, right? The person knew how to use simple future, present, and past tenses. This is good. The sentence structure, we have a variety of, simple sentences that carry one idea. We have a variety of more kind of complex sentences that will have that are longer, that will have a little bit of punctuation in them. So I'd say the sentence structure is fairly all right. So we are mostly using corresponding conjunctions here, the words, and definitely could have tried to use a little bit more complex sentences. But again, for this level of English, I'd say this is pretty good. Spelling and punctuation, we did have quite a bit of mistakes in spelling. For example, so not in spelling, I mean, just the word I that is always lowercase word for some reason. I don't really understand why the author does that. Just remember, I is always capitalized. Aside from that, I can't see a lot of spelling mistakes, but there are some things that just not clear, right? I just underline them. Sometimes it's difficult to understand what the author was trying to say. For the punctuation, I also would say that some of the commas were missing. Again, like after the word firstly, there was no comma. To compare with our previous vacation in Cuba, there should be a comma. So punctuation could be better, but we also can see how author uses some commas just to separate the items on the list. So that's fairly good. Um, there is some control of punctuation, like there is a comma after the best regards, which is also pretty good. Yeah, some things can be improved, but it's not terrible. And task fulfillment, again, this is the big thing that does not relate to English language itself. It also relates to how well you can answer the task. So for the relevance, I would say that the answer is relevant, but we still don't have, it's not complete. We still don't have the answer for the second bullet point, explain how services affected your experience. And we still don't have the answer for a part, like how they exceeded your expectations. But okay, maybe we have it here. But you need to kind of go and infer from this. It's not very clear how these services affected or exceeded the expectations. But now with this example, you can kind of do 2 plus 2 and make a conclusion for sure, but it's not very clear. Tone, I would say tone was okay, and word count was good. So the I think this is 195 words, which is pretty good. It's on a higher end. It's getting close to 200. So good work. Kudos to the author. Very well done there. You've almost exceeded the word count. So it's good you're using those opportunities. And speaking back about the relevance, we have the opening that is not very relevant, and we have the closing that is not very relevant. So this is a big thing that tells me that author didn't quite understood the task. So I have to be careful with that. Okay. Hopefully this will help somebody in your test preparation, and I hope that somebody will listen to that and will try to make some conclusions after that, and will be able to better cope with these tasks and ultimately will succeed on a CELPIP test. Okay? Just remember, refer to this resource. I will send it in the Telegram channel so that you can save a copy to yourself and concentrate on all 4 areas that are going to be evaluated on a CELPIP test. You want to have nicely structured response, just like author has, but you also want to make sure that you're answering all the questions, that you are given some examples, that you are staying on topic, and that you're using a wide vocabulary. Okay? Thank you for now, and see you later, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.